Night of the Spadefoot Chapter 17. When Ben gets home, he grabs a snack and is about to head back outside when his mom calls out, "There's something for you in your room." He runs down the hall and finds a big box sitting on his bedroom floor. Its corners are squashed, and Ben recognizes his own handwriting on the side. Ben's room. "Finally," he says to himself. He drops his backpack, rips the tape off the box, and pulls back on the flaps. His mom comes in and leans against the door watching him. His first thought when he looked in the box is that there's not as much stuff as he remembered. What's missing? He pulls out the little pill bottles holding insects, the plastic food container that holds the snake skin, the posters of desert animals he folded so carefully when he packed in Tuscan, and finally, down at the bottom, the books in his collection of rocks. "Happy?" his mother asks. "Yeah," Ben says. His mother smiles and leaves the room. Ben looks through the stuff again. It's all there, but it feels like something is missing. It's not as exciting or comforting as he thought it would be. All of the things in the box seem like parts of his life from so long ago. Some other time. Some other place. He's glad he got the box back, but it doesn't seem so important now. He puts the stuff back in the box and runs to the kitchen. His mom is busy with something on the other side of the room, so Ben grabs a handful of cookies and heads outside. He thinks about going by the trail, but he decides that his bike will be faster. He wants to get Mrs. Tibbetts' house before anybody else does. By the time he gets there, the driveway is filled with cars. Mrs. Tibbetts' old station wagon sits next to her sister-in-law's car. Parked behind them are a bright green van with the name of a real estate company on the side, and a blue car with the state insignia on the door. Ben's heart races. He knocks on the door. When nobody answers, he walks around to the back and finds 4 people standing in a semicircle, looking back at the field. Sandwiched between Mrs. Tibbetts and her sister-in-law are a tall lady in a business suit with a purse slung over her shoulder, and a short, stocky man in a brown windbreaker, an ancient green baseball cap, and hiking boots. He's holding a clipboard under one arm. No one's talking. They're just standing there, looking like they'd rather be somewhere else. They all turn when they hear Ben come up. "Hello, Ben," says Mrs. Tibbetts. "Hi," Ben says back. "This is Tabitha Turner, my sister-in-law, and this is Adela Garrett, her real estate agent, and this—" "You must be the young man who called," said the man in the green cap. His face breaks into a grin. "I'm Hank Lindsay," he says, holding out his hand. Ben's dad has always told him that you can tell a lot from someone's handshake, and Ben likes the friendly way that Hank Lindsay shakes his hand. "Hi, Mr. Lindsay." The real estate agent looks at Ben and Mr. Lindsay like she thinks they don't belong here. But Ben isn't leaving. Not now. Then, Mrs. Tibbetts' sister-in-law speaks up. "Excuse me, but I'm still mystified as to why this boy felt free to invite a person from the state onto my property." "I spoke with Mr. Lindsay too, Tabitha," Mrs. Tibbetts says. "I told him he should come." Tabitha Turner sniffs and shakes her head. "Well," says Mr. Garrett, "this is certainly a beautiful piece of property. It has terrific possibilities." She gives Hank Lindsay a tight smile. There's an awkward moment of silence, and Ben is glad he doesn't have to do anything but stand there and be a kid. "Well," Mr. Lindsay says, taking out his clipboard, "let's go have a look." "It's over here," says Mrs. Tibbetts. "The pool is down the path on the other side of the garage." She leads the way, and everyone follows behind her in a straggly line. "What's in there?" Mr. Lindsay asks, nodding to the empty cages beside the garage. "Snakes," says Mrs. Tibbetts, hurrying toward the trail ahead. "My husband was an herbologist." "I know," Mr. Lindsay says. "I met him several times. He knew his stuff." Tabitha shakes her head and mumbles something to Mrs. Garrett as they try to keep up with the others. Swallows swoop overhead, and a mockingbird calls from the branches of the tree in the back field. "This is an interesting piece of land," Mr. Lindsay says. "There are several different habitats. There's that meadow behind the house, and it looks like there's an outcropping of granite over there." "And a vernal pool," Ben says hopefully. The real estate agent swats the gnats flying around her head. As they enter into the woods, the canopy of leaves above them casts a splotchy shadow on the forest floor. "It's a little wet back here," Mr. Lindsay says. "I don't know if you could build on this part." "It's always wetter in the spring," the real estate agent says, treading carefully to avoid getting mud on her shiny shoes. It takes a while for this odd mix of hikers to get through their woods. Mr. Lindsay, Ben, and Mrs. Tibbet stop several times on the path so the two other women can catch up. When they near the vernal pool, Ben runs ahead. It's almost like he wants to warn the pool that people are coming. But when he gets to the big rock, he stops and stares. There's no pool there. He can't believe it. It's completely dried up. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would have never believed that there was a pool there only a few days ago. Now it's just a little dip in the ground surrounded by rocks and trees, their leaves casting a deep shadow where the pool had been. Small yellow-green bunches of leaves are shooting up out of the spot. Ben hears the others approaching and turns to face them. "This is the pool," he says, hoping Mr. Lindsay can see something that isn't there. "This is where the Spadefoots come." "But there's nothing there," exclaims Mrs. Garrett. "Not even a puddle." "But it was here," Ben says. "It's been here every year for thousands of years." "Oh, really?" says the real estate agent. Mr. Lindsay squats and looks at the site. They all watch him. He scratches the back of his head, then pushes aside the plants growing up out of the dark, rotting leaves. He presses his finger into the damp earth, like he's a doctor examining a patient. "What do you think?" Ben asks. Mr. Lindsay stands up and looks around with his hands on his hips. He steps back several yards and then walks into a circle, checking the ground several times. He scribbles something on the notebook attached to his clipboard. "Well, it could be a significant site," he finally says. "It's a vernal pool for sure." "But there's nothing here," Mrs. Garrett insists. "Surely you can't say that this is a significant site when there's no sign of a pond here." "Well, yes, ma'am, there are signs. I can tell it's a vernal pool." Ben smiles and glances over at Mrs. Tibbet's. Her eyes are on the place where the pool once was. "But," everyone turns to look at Mr. Lindsay, "there are two problems. First, we'd have to document that it contains threatened or endangered species that the vernal pool needs to survive." "We saw the Spadefoots," Ben practically shouts. "Mrs. Tibbet's have seen them for years." "Right," says Mr. Lindsay, "but we'd need proof. Pictures or something. It wouldn't have to be Spadefoot toads. There are other vernal pool species, fairy shrimp, fingernail clams, caddisfish larvae, for example. But everything has to be well documented before we can stop any development." "Just what I've said all along," says Mrs. Garrett. "You can't hold us up from selling something without proof. I've got a buyer and an owner who is ready to sell. End of story." "But Mr. Lindsay," Ben begs, "can't you just hold off on the builders until we can get the proof?" "Excuse me, young man," Mrs. Turner says, really stewing now. "Will you please stay out of this? You have no say here." "Leave him be, Tabitha," Mrs. Tibbet snaps. Everybody shuts up and stares at her. "Ben, let Mr. Lindsay talk." Mr. Lindsay takes off his cap, smooths back his thinning hair, then replaces the cap on his head. "There are other problems. In order to be certified as a vernal pool, the site would have to be filled with water for at least 2 months. And I'm not sure this pool will be big enough to qualify." "But that's not fair," Ben blurts out. "The Spadefoots don't care how big it is. They need to live." "Gloria," Mrs. Turner says to her sister-in-law, staring at Ben like he's a dog that needs to be disciplined, "can you do something about the boy?" "He's right," Mr. Lindsay says. "It's not fair, but it's the way the laws are written." "There are Spadefoot's toads here," Mrs. Tibbet says. "And they are endangered," Ben adds. I know. Mr. Lindsay tucks his clipboard back under his arm. "It's a weird little loophole in the law. Spadefoots are particularly difficult to document since they don't need a very big pool." "So," the real estate agent adds, "it's not really a problem." Mr. Lindsay looks at her and sighs. "Unless you're a Spadefoot." Ben feels tears welling up in his eyes. He can't believe there's nothing anyone can do. Without another word, the adults turn and head back towards the house. Ben falls in beside Mrs. Tibbet, and she places her hand on his shoulder. It's a long, quiet walk. When they reach Mrs. Tibbet's yard, they all stand in the driveway. Mrs. Garrett breaks the silence. "So, Mr. Lindsay, things have not really changed in terms of what happens to the land. There's nothing to prevent its sale." "No," Mr. Lindsay hesitates. "But if there was real concern about preserving endangered habitat, it's possible that the sale could be made to a group that would protect it. The Nature Conservancy or the land trust in the town might buy the land. They would pay you and then not develop it." "But it's not at full value," the real estate agent says. "Development is really the way to get the most out of this piece of property. Selling it to some nature group wouldn't be nearly as profitable." Not as profitable as putting up a bunch of houses, no. He looks over at Mrs. Turner. But I'm sure they would offer a fair price, and it's a special piece of land, even if the state can't protect it. Mrs. Tibbets keeps her eyes on her sister-in-law. Mrs. Turner stares down at the driveway pavement with a straight mouth, arms folded across her chest. Thank you, Mr. Lindsay, she says. We appreciate your time. Mrs. Tibbet blows a short, exasperated burst of air out of her mouth. Her sister-in-law frowns. Selling the land helps you too, Gloria. Don't make me the bad guy. It's silent again. Mr. Lindsay takes his wallet out of his pocket and pulls out a card. He hands it to Mrs. Turner. She looks at the card like it's poison, but she takes it anyways. If you have any questions or concerns, he says, give me a call. He shakes hands all around and comes to Ben last. It's a pleasure to meet you, young man. Ben smiles weakly and shakes his hand, but is hugely disappointed in this man who should have been able to make things right. As Mr. Lindsay drives away, Mrs. Turner and the real estate woman stand by the van talking quietly. I'm going inside, Tabitha, Mrs. Tibbet calls. We'll talk later, her sister-in-law answers. Ben and Mrs. Tibbets watch as the car and the real estate agent van pulls out of the driveway. Want a cookie? Mrs. Tibbet asks, putting a hand on Ben's shoulder. Okay, Ben says. Ben sits at the kitchen table where he sat half a dozen times before. The late afternoon sun shines through the window onto Mrs. Tibbet's hand resting on the table just across from him. It's over, Ben thinks. All of this and nothing happens. The houses get built. The Spadefoots lose their home. Is there anything you can say to your sister-in-law, he asks. Mrs. Tibbet shakes her head. There's not a thing I can do. We're just too far apart, and she wouldn't listen to me no matter what I said. But Mr. Lindsay said she could still make money even if she sold the land to people who would take care of it. I know, but she's got her mind made up. They have a buyer who's willing to pay a lot of money. I can't imagine what would make her change her mind. Ben looks out the window and tries to picture the trees gone and the land filled up with houses. Your husband wouldn't have sold the land so someone could build houses on it, would he? No, he loved this land. Doesn't she love it too? You'd think so. She grew up on it. I tried reminding her of that, but she wouldn't listen. She won't listen to anything I say. Some of Mrs. Tibbet's words catch Ben's attention. She grew up on it. An idea hits him. Mrs. Tibbets, where are those pictures? What pictures? You know, those old pictures you were going through a couple weeks ago. Where are they? On the dining room table. Ben jumps up and runs into the dining room. He brings the box back into the kitchen and dumps the contents onto the table. Mrs. Tibbets watches him without speaking as he searches through the yellowed old photographs. He finds the snapshot he's looking for and holds it up in the finding daylight. It's the picture of the two kids sitting on the rock. Suddenly he realizes that it's the rock he and Mrs. Tibbets sat on by the vernal pool. He gazes at the picture, watching the years fall away. The girl is Tabitha and the boy is Thomas. They're both holding American toads. The girl has a big grin and doesn't look anything like the grown-up Mrs. Tabitha Turner. Ben flips over the photo. Scrawled on the back are these words, Tom, me, and the overtoad. He turns over the picture again and looks at the girl holding the toad. The overtoad. Tabitha and the overtoad. Mrs. Tibbets, this is Tabitha, isn't it? Mrs. Tibbets takes the photo and holds it at arm's length. Yes, she says, squinting. It's Tabitha and Thomas. Look at what she wrote on the back. She knows about the overtoad. You mean she knew about it when she was little. But she forgot, Ben says. Yeah, she forgot. Things happen when you grow up, and you forget. Mrs. Tibbet gets up to put the dishes in the sink, and Ben slips the photo in his jacket pocket. I have to go now, he said. I need to get to work on my geography report. Mrs. Tibbet dries her hand on a dish towel. Your report? I thought you said it was due today. It was, but Mrs. Cutcher gave me another week. I changed what I'm doing it on. If I don't finish it this time, she'll kill me. I doubt that. Well, bye, Ben says and scoots out the back door. There's so much to do, and he doesn't know if he has enough time, but he whirls around and sticks his head back through the doorway. Mrs. Tibbets? Maybe the overtoad will save us. I would love that, Mrs. Tibbet said.